Aloha, I'm Dr. Sasha Lessin, and this is Janet Kira Lessin, and we're here together with Tyrone Ellington. He's our discussant and host for this show that we've been doing, and it's all about our ancestry from way back when we were on different planets and scattered by Dracos that were chasing our ancestors, and they ran all over, and some of them came down to Earth. And we've been talking about a particular group that came down to Earth from the planet Nibiru, which is one of the planets that goes around the twin of Solaris. That is, Solaris is part of a binary system with a dark red star, Nemesis, and it comes through every 3,600 years or so. It's sped up lately. But anyway, there's these people that came down and they left a lot of records. And our teacher, Zechariah Sitchin, was really into some of the records they left in Iraq, Turkey, and northern Kuwait especially. And so we put the context, if I could just set the scene, is that our ancestors were invaded by Dracos and chased all over, and they got to this planet Nibiru, and King didn't do anything about climate change, where things was getting worse and worse and worse.
Sounds familiar.
The volcano stopped blowing, and the ash that had shielded the planet was gone, got blown away, and they couldn't get the volcanoes to start, and they found that if they could float gold, powdered and floated up into the sky, it would make a shield and shield them from climate, too heavy of climate change, and also from some radiation from their thermonuclear war that they had. You know, all the stuff that they did, their attitudes, their ways of thinking, which was hierarchic, who's on top and who's a continual way of looking at things in that fashion, dominator consciousness, has permeated their politics and comes right down to modern times. It's the same patterns. And as we study this stuff, we start to become clear about what patterns are being followed. So what happens is this guy, this one old king didn't do anything about climate change. He just prayed instead. And they prayed. It didn't work. It didn't help. And then so this other guy, noble, overthrew him, threw him off a tower, killed him, and he became king. But the guy that was supposed to be king next, after the one he threw off, said, "Hey, wait, it should be me." And the killer said, "Hey, babe, I don't have to kill you too. You can be my number two. Your son can marry my daughter, and whoever boy they breed will be my successor. So we won't have to have a civil war. Just you can be my number two." He made it sound like it was a good deal. And so the pretender said, "Okay, I'll be your cupbearer. You want to call me a cupbearer? Well, okay." Okay, so we'll take it from there. The story now goes on. This is new stuff. He's acting as cupbearer. So the guy's name is Anu. That's the cupbearer.
We left off because he was already on Earth.
Who, Layla?
Yeah, he had arrived on Earth, right?
I asked you.
Yeah.
Well, let's go for the next one. Do you remember this one? Okay.
Yeah, remember he already was on Earth, right?
Okay, we'll keep progressing.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, we'll just go through. Oh, I see what it is. It's settled back. Yeah, that's right. We actually got to the point. They have this fight on Earth again, and again, Anu wins. This is interesting. There he is in the Persian Gulf. This is where this is all taking place. Under Basra. Basra is dying. Oh, it's terrible what's happening in Basra right now. It's totally dried out.
That's after the flood, then, of course.
No,
it's right now. Oh my gosh.
but this landing was 450,000.
Yeah, this is 450,000 years ago. It was like wonderful jungle and beautiful landscape, and it was a marsh, and it went way out into what we call the Persian Gulf.
Right.
for miles and miles and miles, just teeming with life, with all kinds of life.
Yeah. Yeah. I got it now.
We
Makes sense.
did the first when Enki gets to Earth. The first thing that they do is they check everything out, and they're utterly startled by how fast the days go by, and because it's like 14 times faster than on Nibiru. So anyways, they figure out how to do that, and they worked like hell for 6 days, and the seventh day they rested. And that's how we got our week.
Genesis.
It's Genesis, right?
Okay.
But it's an interesting write-up. They go through it in great detail. The first
How
day.
do I go back? Back.
There we go.
So one of the things that happens,
I was saying something.
she was saying something.
Like they had to identify where to get water, what they could eat. So they were looking at the fish. So all those things that do get translated into lines in Genesis. And the first day they found, dry land. Second day they found fish. Third day they found water. So each day they figured out how to meet one of their needs.
Right.
And then
Right.
so it's very, if you compare that with what's written in like Lost Book of Enki or something.
Mhm.
I was looking at that and I started laughing. I go, oh my God, they're just setting up camp. So anyway, next. Go ahead. Your turn, buddy.
So what happened is that Enki and his personal pilot, a guy named Abgal,
Mhm.
went into Alalu's rocket ship. Remember, Alalu had fled from Nibiru. He thought they were going to kill him, like he killed the last guy. And he
Right.
got a rocket ship that was armed with the nukes, with a rocket ship, had all these bombs in it that they'd been dropping down the volcanoes for the try to attempt to get ash to cover the atmosphere, but it didn't work. But he got this thing had like I think it was 9 altogether. On the way here, he used some of his nukes to blast asteroids out of the way. But when he got to Earth, there were 9 of these bombs or missiles. I think they were bombs that could be guided. I guess you call them missiles, still on the rocket ship. But he was so happy to see people after he thought he was going to, maybe warships were going to go after him because he just set up. Alalu had just set up these batteries aimed at Agade at the capital on Nibiru. And instead, here comes his son-in-law, and he says, "Hey, hi, Alalu, you are the Lord of Earth. Congratulations! You're saving us with gold, and we're so." And so he was just Alalu was just really happy. He left his rocket. He didn't care about the rocket ship anymore. So Abgal, the personal pilot, and Enki went to his father-in-law's rocket ship and got the rest of those missiles out. And they took them in their Vimana to a place in Africa. And they hid them in a cave. And they hid the activation codes with them. And they totally camouflaged it so you couldn't tell where it was. This is going to be very important, because these are the only 2 people at this point that know where these nukes are on Earth.
This is like one of those things in the plot and the okay.
And so Abgal is the name of the pilot. Is going to be important in this story. He helped Enki hide the nukes. This guy's going to secretly betray Enki. This is the Judas guy.
I'm gonna go this way.
Okay.
What?
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
So when Enki gets back to where the big rocket ship that Alalu came in was there, Anzu is the pilot that took Enki here, the interplanetary pilot. He's a relative of Alalu's for that matter. But he says, "Where's the nukes? There was nukes in this thing." And Enki says, "Anzu, you're fired. None of your business now. Shut up. I don't ever want you to mention them again. Got it?" Abgal, I'm going to keep Anzu here with me right now. I know he's really hot. I'm going to send you back with the gold samples that Nibiru needs.
Right. Because yeah, for their planning for the atmosphere, right?
Right.
Yeah. So here's a representation of Anzu. Anzu is the he just got fired.
It's interesting when you try to find images of these people, they don't quite look human.
Uh,
They have
And-
wings and they have strange faces and they have claws for feet and all kinds of stuff. We're not sure
Do
what was
you
going on.
think do you think they seen them physically, or do you think they seen them like visionary type, like through a meditation type state, or a hallucinogen or something like that?
I think all those are true and probably at times what it happens. But what we do know is that we have hang gliders that have things just like that. They
Right,
jump off looking for updrafts here on Maui.
Right.
And service has experimented with some of those kinds of things. So it could be that it's something they put on, or it could be something that these guys could manifest if they are from a slightly different dimension. So we
Right.
don't know.
Just a little aside, I read one of these books from the 1800s about a man who went to the underworld.
Right.
And when he got there, he said that they could attach these wings,
Mhm.
which were functional. So maybe they're just representing, like Sasha was saying, some kind of uh, hang gliding type mechanism, but it actually would go on the body. And just like we're learning how to use our mind to drive ships, the secret space program, and the aliens use their hands to drive ships. This interacted with the muscles of a brain of a real person, a being. And so while it was an attachment, it was more sophisticated than the hang glider. It was actually, they could move it and with their mind, just like a ship. So that's what that book was saying. That was written in the late 1800s, which would be beyond any kind of, I guess it's science fiction, but most people wouldn't be able to imagine something that complicated.
Well, I would
that
always put
mechanism
it
in your brain.
right. Well, it kind of goes into watching the movie Avatar. Watching the movie, Avatar, basically how they would do it, and then not only that, they say that they're like I've read a couple of articles before about virtual reality. You know how it mimics if you move on the outside, something in virtual world could be moved in the inside and stuff like that. That's pretty cool and stuff. But when we were talking about visionary stuff, the reason I was asking because I know when it comes to extraterrestrials, a lot of the information that is geared towards them sometimes comes from religious books like the Holy Bible or the Quran or the Mahabharata or something. And in the Bible it talks about the Ezekiel wheel, basically how Ezekiel had a vision of what could have been what some people have identified as a UFO or a spaceship or an aircraft of some sort, and that the wheel could move in multiple directions. And today's technology, from what I understand, if I believe what NASA says, they have an aircraft, or not an aircraft, but some kind of automobile or something that has wheels that actually can do that. I don't know if it's the Mars rover or something like that, but I know they developed something where the wheels can move just exactly how it's mentioned in the Bible. And and it's interesting that you said about attaching wings to your body, because I do know about the paraglide. I think that's what it's called, paragliding, when you just use just basic material just to use the air that's in the atmosphere, or not in the atmosphere, but in the earth and stuff like that. The updrafts, I think that's what you called it. So yeah, I know about that, and I always wonder that because that stuff that's not basic new technology. That's something that can be developed thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, because it doesn't take nothing but some wood and probably some kind of lamb skin or animal skin type to create the paraglide wings or whatnot. So yeah, it does make sense that It could have been many of those things because I have read that. I have read that it's either extraterrestrials. I've read that it could have been visionary. I've read that it could have just been humans that did it. Then when you talked about, Janet, was about the going in the Middle Earth. Is that the same theory of the hollow theory type thing that
Yeah, it's like the hollow earth, the Middle Earth, you know, they call it different things. The other
Yeah.
thing I wanted to add is we also are tracking down stories of actual shapeshifters. So Melusine, who can actually find as a historical person, was able to shapeshift from a snake tail to a mermaid fin to a dragon, and then she in her dragon form. So we also have stories of shapeshifters that can do more than just a chameleon and change color. Okay, go ahead, Sasha.
Still another possibility is a holographic projection, like one that we do know about is Moroni. And this is how you can look at it. One of the things that when Smith was contacted by the angel Moroni, who says, Moroni kept saying the same thing, kept coming to him again and again, saying the same thing. You might as well have said this is a recording. The same thing, the same thing, the same thing. And so that's another possibility too, that some of this in certain manifestations might have been like that.
Right.
So that was a long talk over one image. But so anyway, we don't know, but we're open to more information to help us explain. But just notice that many of these representations of the Anunnaki show wings.
The point is that this guy, Anzu, in the plot, and that's why I have him here, is he's the one that's helped Enki hide these missiles, these 9 missiles in a secret cave. And Enki thinks he can trust this guy, that he's his number 2.
Okay, next.
But see that, and when we get into the next slide, see that I like that you said that, because the wings do make a part, because I know when it comes to religion, when it comes to God or the Holy Bible or whoever you, Allah, whoever you believe in, wings are the identifying factor of these celestial beings, whether they're angels. I don't personally remember anything saying that God was flying through the sky, but I know that he was in the clouds, and I know that sometimes he represented himself through fire and stuff like that. And but it's interesting because that does show a way to get, because the Sumerians are considered the founders of the first civilization. They're also considered the founders of the first writing system. So with their religion, they started off with multiple gods. There wasn't one God. There was multiple gods. There was one powerful God, but that powerful God was only a God that could fight off, or not the powerful God, but he was the most powerful God, but he wasn't the most powerful God out of them all, because of course Elelu and Anu, they got into a fight and one beat the other, and so on and so forth. So I can just imagine that happened multiple times on Nibiru, that there was battles between gods and stuff like that.
The thing is, they didn't consider themselves to be gods.
Right,
They
exactly.
absolutely knew they weren't gods. They knew, they prayed to God. They prayed to the Creator. They had writing. They had these documents that they read, and they looked at the seals, and so they fully had writing. And the Sumerians came so late in their development. These guys arrived on Earth 450,000 years ago. Sumer was only became functional 9,000 years ago or so, after they cleared away the mud from the flood. And so this is way, way, way before that. And these are drawings that the Sumerians made of what these big guys that had all the power and lots of technology and knew how to use their will and maybe even shift dimensions were telling them. And they thought they might have called them gods, and these guys let them call them gods, but they knew they weren't gods.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of yeah, you're right.
They weren't even the big pieces in the Federation. They were, they knew the Federation had been fighting the Draco. They had the whole story just like everybody else. And here's a picture that what the Sumerians how they depicted
Mhm.
exactly what's happening. In our story, Enki has now sent Abgal, his personal pilot, with a sample gold back to prove to the Nibirans and see if they can make powder in it out of it, and whether this scheme works or it's not going to work. And so that's what he's doing, and he's sending Abgal back. And then when a person goes from planet to planet, you can see somebody's in Nibiru. These are represented. The seven Earth is represented by these 7 dots. That's where that's where Earth is. They count Earth coming in from the outer solar system, and they're going to Nibiru. And they chose Nibiru there as one of the planets around Nemesis. And you can see Earth is being shown with the dolphins and the Earth creatures, and so he's now sending the gold samples back to King Anu and the
That's Nibiru. I don't know if you can see the laser. And that's the
Yeah.
seventh planet.
Oh, that's cute what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I've also read that I've also
ahead.
read those 7 celestial dots on the left-hand side was the 7 sisters, the 7 sisters, the Pleiades. I believe that's what it is. Some people have connected that to the Pleiades. Have y'all ever heard of that?
That's a logical thing.
The Pleiades is also, of course, a place where the ancestors, our ancestors, have been, and they were
Okay.
part of the initial. People have bounced around and tried. When we say that, what we call the Pleiades involves lots of sun systems.
Right.
They just happen to line up in our vision. So some are really close and some are way far.
Right.
Ready for the next slide?
Yes, I am, Janet.
Okay, let's go to the next slide.
So while Abdal is going back to Nibiru with the gold, he builds it. He can build anything. He builds another Vaimana, and he goes prospecting for. He follows the flecks that in front of Basra, and he sees where are they coming from? Where are they getting thicker? And he uses instruments, and he's going for. He has an instrument that's taking him to where it gets hot, and it shows him where there's platinum and where there's gold.
Right.
And the way they show this in their drawings, the energy coming off of Enki's shoulders there, this is a wall sculpture. That means that whatever he's doing, whatever device he's got there is radioactive.
Okay.
That's the way our teacher Sitchin interprets it. What you doing, man?
I'm putting this in the presenter view so you can maybe see a little bit better. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's way easier to see. So that's a depiction. He's prospecting.
That's interesting.
In the meantime, go ahead. What do you say?
I was going to say, because don't they have some type of gas in that area? I can't remember. They got some type of what is it called? Gaseous. I can't even remember off the top of it. It just slipped my head as soon as I was thinking. But that radioactive activity that you think is on his shoulders, do you think that could be during the time that they believe that Mesopotamia was covered with radioactive material? Because some people have brought that to my attention. That
yes, it could be. Absolutely could be. That certainly could be. So I'm using it to illustrate this my point here. Because
I was asking
it could be that. That's just as good an interpretation. Absolutely.
Okay, because I've read that. I've read Your Way, and then I've read. I can't remember who I've read it from, but they said that they're just taking a highly guess about it, and I was wondering because I remember I believe it was in Sitchin's book where he talks about Mesopotamia being covered with radioactivity at one time, and there was nobody could live there for some time. I can't remember if it's his book or
that was after they bombed.
Yeah, that was so. That's
that was much later.
Actually, he cleaned it up. He actually And then the Israelis learned the secrets, and they were able to clean up Canaan too.
Okay. See,
Makes
okay.
sense.
Okay. Now that goes, all that goes into my head perfectly now then.
Okay, so meanwhile, back on Nibiru,
Mhm.
it doesn't show the slide.
That's this is the current slide.
Oh, okay. Well, back on Nibiru,
Mhm.
the king's heir, Enlil, who comes to be Yahweh when he gets to Earth, but Enlil is really bummed.
Mhm.
His older brother, who isn't really the heir, gets to go lead this expedition and be a big hero and make all the discoveries. And he's saying, I don't think there's enough gold. I think you're trying to put something over on you. Yeah, this is nice samples. How much, what kind of quantity are we going to get? And he shouldn't be doing this. It's to be me. I'm somebody to be a hero. Don't you want, I'm going to be your successor someday. Don't you want me to be a hero? Not to him. He's in the wrong line. The whole royal kind of trip he's going on his dad.
Mhm.
And it's basically he wants to be in charge, and he thinks he deserves it, and he's not going to be sidetracked by Enki, whose son Marduk almost displaced him.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so he's saying, I send me, Dad. King can't stand it. Okay, all right, go. You get out of my hair. Okay. Oh my, look, there's a misspelling there.
What? Oh, Basra.
It's Basra.
Okay, what's slide number? 90. Slide 90.
Okay, anyway, so there they go. They are really having the two brothers are having it with each other. Each one is Enki saying, "So leave me alone. Well, I've got so much to do. I don't care about your stuff. You've got your guys. I got my 50 guys that came with me. We don't need you. But if you want to cooperate, cool." And they're messaging the king, "Hey, who's in charge here? Can't you?" And so finally, the king can't say, "Look, I'm going to come and take care of this." And if Walu is still thinks he's going to challenge me, I'll wrestle him again. I can beat him any day.
Right. Because that's the way to get to the kingship, by wrestling, I guess.
So if you look here, this is the depiction of Anu, and it's a winged. It's got some kind of winged vehicle. Looks like it. Yeah. So we see these things. They're mysteries. Is this what their craft actually look like? Is this like a sport model? You just you put yourself in there and fly around. I don't know. And then we have
Well, we know that with modern things, they often have a mothership with smaller ships that deal with the Earth's thicker air and stuff like that.
Anyway, and then of course you have the fish suits. Okay,
That's
so
Enki's drive, yeah.
so he came to Earth to settle. His sons are just like other siblings, sibling rivalry. They're competitive.
Basically. That's what I've read, and that's how I understand it. Exactly how I understand it. The back and forth between the two. we
Honor said, yeah, go ahead. What happened when you had? How did your family handle it?
Everybody handled it just like like they're doing it right here, fighting back and forth.
Okay, okay. So I'm going to ask you to ask yourself as we get into this, whether this was going on. The king, he's the king of. This is kids, and they'll do whatever he says.
Yeah,
that's that period. And so he says, "We're gonna draw."
Straws.
Draw straws. We don't. It wasn't clear whether it was straws or twigs or what. They're going to draw something. They're going to have a drawing, and the kids know their dad well enough to know he's saying, and you know what? This is going to be so fair that I'm going to even put my kingship on the line, and one of the lots who gets that will be king of Nibiru, get to be the other two. Okay, so we got three of them, and his kids know. Oh shit, Dad's not going to give up the kingship. This is fixed. But oh yes, sir, yes, sir. In the meantime, Alalu is watching this drawing. Okay.
And he's saying, what about me? I'm
No,
not
wait.
in this drawing.
Right.
He
So
the one
Anu
that
got
was-
Nibiru.
Yeah,
Wait.
wasn't he the king already before? He
Alalu
went-
was the king. Where are you going, honey? Stay here. Here, I just want to say it. So Anu got Nibiru, and Enlil got command of the earth, and Enki got the seas and the mighty ups
Mhm.
in Africa.
Oh, Lalu said, okay, I can't take this anymore. I'm supposed to be the king of Nibiru. And Anu says, come on, you think you can take me? I took you once before. I can do it right now again. And they have another big fight.
That's an interesting.
They use their might.
That's right.
Now they would wrestle naked. This isn't quite accurate because they weren't hiding any weapons. There's nowhere to hide the weapons when you're wrestling naked. So it's really your strength, one against the other. Okay, right. Next.
He won. It was, and then there's this whole symbolic thing. He puts his knee on Olalu's chest, and Anu said, "Got it."
You have that one?
I'm gonna let
No,
you run
okay.
it. You know?
No, I thought you had that picture where he had his knee on. You had a good representation of that. Okay, so continue. Come back here. Where do you go?
Well, I want you to have the stage when you want, honey.
No, you stay there. Go ahead. There we go. That's what we're talking about.
So he's feeling really good, and he's not paying much attention to Olalu. Olalu isn't through. As soon as Anu moves his knee, that's when Olalu jumps up and he bites off. And we're not sure what he bit off, but what it said in the literature is he bit off Anu's manhood. We don't know. Maybe he just got the testicles. Maybe I don't know what he. But anyway, he really ruined the king. And so Enki starts giving his dad first aid right away. Enlil catches Olalu and beats the shit out of him. And they give him first aid. They want to get Anu home where they can sew whatever it is back on or fix it, whatever it was. It's sort of beating around the bush about what exactly his injury was. But they leave. But they decide they're going to drop Enlil wants to kill Olalu on the site, and Anu said, "No, let's maroon him on Mars. He's actually bit my flesh, and I take this stuff that makes my flesh poisonous to anyone that takes it in like that. I know that that's the trip because that's what I learned when I was Olalu's cupbearer. He protects. So anyway, so he's going to die anyway, but now I'll let him die a slow, horrible death on Mars because this hurts. So they fly back.
Anzu,
And Anzu says, you know what? He's just sort of there, sort of semi-captive of Enki's. Anzu said, look, he's my kinsman. I want to at least comfort him while he's dying. Would you, O king, drop me off there so I might die with Olalu? And Anu looks at him and said, wow, you got guts, man. Tell you what, yeah, I'll drop you off there. If you're still, I'm going to send my daughter back here. Because she's part of my plans. But if you're still alive, if you can keep alive after Anzu dies, I'll give you a job here. We're going to start a base here.
Okay.
Just take it to the point that he's sending rockets, and he's going to send it next episode. He's going to send his daughter with 50 female doctors to Earth, and they're going to stop at Mars and see what happens to Anzu and Olalu.
that's interesting. So there were 50 men said initially, so they're going to send 50 women. Are they all 50 women, or
No, there's more than that. So each crew has 50, so that Enlil's there, that's a crew of 50. Enki's there, that's a crew of 50. So that's 100. There's now 100 guys there.
And then
She's going to bring 50 women.
So
Right.
those 50 women have to do double duty.
They don't have to do any duty. They get their own place, and they're
Right, but they're talking about if they're wanting to breed the population.
that's not what their aim is. That is not what they don't even think about that right now. They're just desperate to save their planet. They
Okay.
are. It's just.
I'm just making a joke.
Let me ask you, how many people you think, or how many individuals you think came with Alelu when he came down, when he first got kicked out of Nibiru and had to flee?
Alalu was alone.
He
Oh,
was
that's
alone.
it. They got a whole, they could all by himself. He
Mhm.
stole, he stole the rocket ship. There's a great detail word, line by line of what it is. He knew the navigation. He's a learned person. They have documents. He knew how to use the computers. He'd
Okay.
flown these things because it was part of he was king when the mission was to fly them over the volcanoes and drop. So he knew the
Oh yeah.
technology of how to fly because he was a king. He participated in that, so he knew all about that. Plus, he had the information. He had sent Alalu had sent a rocket ship with miners because he knew there was gold in the asteroid belt and on Earth is by records and by instruments. But they hit an asteroid and they killed them all. And so by then he gave up on the project, and that's when he got overthrown because you can't give up on climate change or it will kill you.
You're right.
Or you'll
Yeah.
get killed.
Yeah, it might have some
I'll take
some
over.
some lessons for today.
All right.
So the next tune in next time when you see now you will see that Tyrone, you really guessed it, especially the commander was really horny, and you'll see what happened with those nurses
Yeah.
next time.
All right, yeah, next time,
All right.
definitely.